Wade, that was lovely. Thank you so much. I was on the mountain. I don't know if anybody else was. Good morning. We are grateful to gather both in person and online this morning as the Unitarian Universalist Society for a time of music, inspirational words, reflection, and connection. I am Brenda Lindley, member of UUS and your worship associate this morning. My pronouns are she, they. If you are visiting service today, welcome. We hope you find the service meaningful. If you are visiting online, there should be a link to a visitor form in the chat if you want to let us know that you have visited today. If you are here in person, I would invite you to either turn off your phone or else both silence it and turn off your Wi-Fi so that it doesn't interfere with either our service or our Wi-Fi network. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't all believe the same things. We do look to shared principles that guide our lives and actions and affirm that we draw from many sources of wisdom that help our living tradition continue to evolve. This morning, as we celebrate the transitions of our lives and how we develop resilience in times of change, we will also celebrate and explore our fourth principle, which states that we covenant to support each other in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning, as well as how the proposed eighth principle might help us act to build a more resilient, beloved community. And now Reverend Diana will lead us in our call to gather.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Diana Smith, the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Society, and my pronouns are she and her. It is wonderful to be with you all this morning. As we gather, we give thanks for and to the land we sit or stand upon, and all who have stewarded this land over the centuries, particularly the nations who lived in interdependence with this land, the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk and Meskwaki, and the Oceti-Sakowin Sioux Nation. As we gather in these times of change, we know that it is so important to be together, to come together as a spiritual community, to gain the sustenance that we each and all need, and to help nourish each other. As members of a covenantal faith that expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and support each other, it is good to come together and to affirm that this congregation remains strong and connected wherever we are. To affirm that we have faith and hope in this congregation, in each other, and in the ways we continue to grow together during and through the challenges of life. And to affirm that wherever any of us is on our life's journey, whether we come to worship with joy in our hearts, weighted with burdens, in need of rest, or searching for people to engage in the struggle with us, we are glad. And this community is glad that we are here. Today, we are celebrating youth bridging into adulthood and other school transitions. And so we begin with The Spark Between from the Reverend Teresa Ninan Soto, who writes, "There must be fuel. There must be a spark. There must be oxygen. We have principles and ethics, the fuel of the fire we would light. The spark is what passes between us, along with our aliveness, our possibility. Spirit moving in us is our clear invitation. Embossed, addressed, sealed with wax, tied with ribbon. The spark is a seed of fire that must be treasured and tended that it may bring the light. We have passion, the air without which nothing thrives, least of all the blaze of covenant, justice, and kindness we would illuminate, both with who we are and what we do. All of these an invitation to bring to life the blaze of liberation that is meant to light our way and to dispel the fog of cruelty and grief. It brings us instead to a hearth around which we gather to be nourished, energized, and warmed, and where we get ready to disperse, enlivened." And now, Alex Heatland, our director of Congregational Music, will lead us in Resilience by Abby Batinis. If you're at UUS, we invite you to sing, hum, or move your hands or body with the music. This one is rousing, by the way, so I hope you do that. If you're at home, I hope you do that too. And we hope you'll sing as loudly as you like. And now please rise in body or in spirit.
Song goes, resilience, we are strong, shoulder to shoulder, keep moving on. Resilience, make a new plan, stand up again and say, yes, we can. I'll sing a line, sing it back. Resilience, we are strong. Resilience, we are strong. Shoulder to shoulder, keep moving on. Resilience, make a new plan. Stand up again and say, yes, we can. Let's sing it all together. Resilience, we are strong. Shoulder to shoulder, keep moving on. Resilience, make a new plan. Stand up again and say, yes, we can. Resilience, we are strong. Shoulder to shoulder, keep moving on. Resilience, make a new plan. Stand up again and say, yes, let's do it again. Resilience, we are strong. Shoulder to shoulder, keep moving on. Resilience, make a new plan. Stand up again and say, yes, we can. Oh, we are strong. Hold on. We're gonna make it, and I know we will. Yes, it's hard to keep going, but it's worse to stand still. Oh, we are strong. Hold on. We're gonna make it, and I know we will. Yes, it's hard to keep moving, and it's best to stay. Resilience. Resilience.
As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. Each week, when we light a candle for justice and healing, we hold space for our understanding of interdependence, that our liberation is bound up with every other person's liberation. And our feelings of rage and heartbreak over the ongoing pandemics of illness and racism, the devastation of climate chaos, and the waves of trauma washing over our world. We light this candle that we may not be numbed or lost to injustice, devastation, illness, and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love together to continue engaging with the struggles for liberation, justice, and healing. We light this candle to help us remind ourselves that together we are creating resilience and hope. I am a practicer of radical optimism. I know there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world, and I don't pretend that they're not happening. And I'm sharing a story. When my kids were little, I would often use tortillas to wrap up cheese or peanut butter or ham for their lunches. And in order to keep the tortilla wrap together, I'd put 3 baby carrots on top of it. And today, as we light this candle, I'd like to be mindful of the students at Johns Hopkins University who created edible tortilla tape to solve a problem I didn't even know needed to be solved. There's a lot of bad and terrible out there in our world, and today, I want us to hold up a wonder. After I light this candle, let's hold a time of silence to listen to our hearts and bodies, or perhaps lift up prayers. Please join in our centering music, or simply take this time to sink more deeply into the presence of each other and wonder. If you're online participating in the service, please feel free to use the chat to let us know that your chalice is lit.
I return to myself, here where I belong. I am coming home. Like a bird to its nest, like a river to the ocean, I am coming home. I return to myself, here where I belong. I am coming home. Like a bird to its nest, like a river to the ocean, I am coming.
Hi everyone, this is Cleo Wade, and I'm going to be reading from my new book called What the Road Said for Barnes & Noble Story Time, and I hope you enjoy. What the Road Said by Cleo Wade, illustrated by Lucy de Moyencourt. Have you ever wanted to go in a different direction? Have you ever wondered if there was something more, something out there, something just different? I did too. Then one day I was walking my usual way home when out of nowhere, for no reason at all, almost as if it were magic, a road appeared. I could not believe my eyes, so I walked over to it and I said to the road, "Where do you lead?" The road said, "Be a leader and find out." "How do I start?" I asked. The road smiled and said, "You have already started." "Well, what happens when I get there?" "We have just begun," said the road. "Do not skip straight to the ending. Enjoy the beginning and the middle too." "Which way do I go?" "That is your choice to make," said the road. "But what if I go the wrong way?" The road curved a little, almost as if it was giving me a hug, and said, "Do not worry. Sometimes we go the wrong way on our way to the right way." "What if I get scared?" "That is okay. You are brave, said the road. But what does it mean to be brave, I asked. The road guided me through a very gloomy forest, and even though I was frightened, I trusted the road. And as I took one step and then another step after that, the road gently whispered, being brave is when you are afraid of doing something, but you do it anyway. Do not let what scares you keep you from continuing on your path. Will I always move forward? Not always, said the road. Why not? Because sometimes you will stumble backward and sometimes you will stand still. What if I fall? Everyone falls at some point, said the road, but I will always be there when you land. What if I get lost? There may be some days that feel very long and dark, said the road, but I promise that no matter what, I will give you the evening stars and the morning sun to light your way. What if I grow weary or get hurt? I will give you trees of all shapes and sizes to shelter you when you need to rest and heal, said the road. What if I get lonely? You are never alone, said the road. What if I change? Come with me, said the road. And as I moved forward, the road introduced me to a caterpillar and a family of seeds. We did not stay long. The road began taking me on a journey through the seasons. I watched summer turn to fall and fall turn to winter, and as spring was upon us, I realized we had gone in one big, beautiful circle. I looked down and found I was standing in front of the caterpillar and the seeds once more. Only the caterpillar was no longer a caterpillar, and the seeds had turned to flowers of every color. The road then raised me up and said, all things grow and change. That is the magic of being alive. You too will find your wings. You too will bloom. No living thing is meant to stay the same. What if I need help on my journey? Ask your fellow travelers along the way. What if they are mean to me? Lead them to kindness, said the road. How? By being kind. What if they want to fight? Lead them to peace, said the road. But how do I lead them to peace? By listening to their stories, telling them yours, and reminding them that you are all on this journey together. What if the world around us is filled with hate? Lead it to love. How? By sharing the power of your love with it, said the road. What if something unexpected happens? Keep going. What if there are mountains that feel too tall to climb? What if there are rivers that feel too wide to cross? What if I get my heart broken? What if I feel stuck? What if giving up is easier? Keep going, keep going, keep going, said the road. What if I can't do it? You can, said the road. How do you know? Because you have come this far, said the road. I said to the road, where do you lead? The road said, be a leader and find out. The end. Thank you so much for reading this book with me, and have a wonderful day.
On this special Sunday, in this season of new life and new beginnings, we pause to recognize our transitions. We give thanks for a place where our transitions make a difference. Things change all the time. Just when we're getting used to the way things are, change comes along. Sometimes we're more than ready for change. Maybe we're tired of the way things are. Sometimes we're not ready for change. We like the way things are. But ready or not, change comes. So much so that sometimes it seems as if everything in life is about change. And there are moments of change that we gather together to acknowledge, and so it is today. Marcia.
Hi, I'm Marcia Cheney, a member of UUS's Religious Education team. As a part of today's service, we have the great joy to recognize and honor our graduating high school seniors, all of whom are participating in this service virtually. Grace Ingersoll, Alex Spey Miller, Aze Etler, and Ellis Cox. High school graduates are on the cusp of so many changes in their lives, about to embark on new adventures. But our purpose today is not to say farewell, but to celebrate their transition from youth to young adulthood, to applaud their successes thus far, and to wish them happiness with what is to come. It is to make sure they know that we are with them wherever they are, close or far. It has been an honor to watch you grow. We will cherish the memories of your many gifts, your vision, your energy, your questions, the care you have shared with the children in our nursery and RE program, the music you have blessed our congregation with, and the laughter you have brought to our RE and OWL groups. As you move into your next chapter, we send with you our warmest hopes and blessings. We are excited to see you emerge as an adult and look forward to all that lies ahead of you. May life bring enough challenge to fuel your dreams, enough affirmation to honor your gifts, and enough nurture to give your spirit peace. Along with our love and best wishes, this morning we have a gift for you. We hope that this book, called Becoming, provides inspiration, solace, and support as you engage with becoming even more yourselves. And as this chalice sits on your home altar or your dresser or your bookshelf, we hope that it will regularly remind you of the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment of your home church. Go in peace, return with joy, knowing that wherever your goals and travels will take you, you will always have a home with us. And to the families, this morning we offer you our thanks and gratitude for bringing your young people week after week and for sharing them with our community. In doing so, you have given us hope, continuity, and purpose. Thank you, and may you too know both joy and peace in the comings and goings of your young adults.
No congregation can survive very long if it consists of only one set of people. A congregation is not just the children's religious education program or the youth group or a covenant group or a book club or even just the people to gather for worship on Sunday mornings, whether they're in person or online. We're a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. As John Donne said a long time ago, no man is an island, no man stands alone. As we recognize that we have been enriched by the presence of these souls as children and youth in our church family, so may we continue to embrace them as young adults and peers among us, even as we acknowledge their growing place in the larger world and bless them as they go forward in creating their own lives. And so, Grace, Alex, Aze, and Ellis, as you move into the next stage of your journeys, may you always know how wonderful you are and how deeply you are beloved. Wherever life takes you, whatever ups and downs or strange turns, wild moments, lonely spaces, or great joys you find, may you always know that this congregation loves you and will be here for you, here to love you for who you are, always. And may you always go in peace, love, and justice, finding ways to share your heart and live love ever more fully and fiercely into this beautiful and imperfect world. Beloveds, spiritual life is always transition. Beloved, community is community in transition, made up of people whose lives are in transition. Always remember, Our congregation is a place where you are loved and people are proud of you. So may it be. Blessed be. Amen.
If you're at UUS in person today, there's a basket in the fellowship hall where everyone can leave a personal message of congratulations for our Bridgers. If you're online, please share those messages in the chat. It could be a message of hope, blessing for the journey, or words of congratulations. After the service, we will be sending them to all the Bridgers so that they can take our love and well wishes on their journeys ahead. So please join me in congratulating our 2021-2022 Bridgers. And this morning, in addition to celebrating our Bridgers, we want to extend our blessings for all children and youth that are at important thresholds in their journeys as they move from preschool to elementary school, elementary to junior high, and from junior high to high school. Even as much has opened up this year, much has still changed from what the end of their year was supposed to look like. And many of the things that celebrate the passage of year have not been able to happen in the traditional way for all of our children and youth. We have all also experienced the turmoil of navigating so many changes. Trust that we all breathe a sigh of disappointment and sadness with you. But I have also seen firsthand all the hard work our children and youth have put in to get to this milestone. Learning how to go to school in person again, but differently than before. Learning how to keep connected with physically distant friends and loved ones, and learning how to make meaning in an uncertain world, all with a pandemic still running in the background. These are no small feats. They are ones that deserve to be recognized and transitions that deserve to be celebrated. As you move forward, know it is an honor to watch you grow and take on the challenges of the day. We cherish the many gifts you share with us, your vision, your energy, your questions. We applaud all the work you have put in to get to this point, and we are excited to see what lies ahead for you. I invite everyone to either speak aloud or put in the chat the names of friends and loved ones who are also at an important milestone in their lives, so they can be added to our blessing. If you're a child or youth who's here today who's at an important milestone, please rise if you'd like. Reed, Hex. For our children and youth making school transitions, all those just named and those that remained unnamed but in our hearts, we offer you this blessing.
Dearest ones, as you move from one known place to a new one, as you begin a new part of your journey, may you feel the warmth of your family, your community, and this congregation holding you with love and support. When the new places and people feel scary, overwhelming, and exciting, and you're not sure what to do, who to talk to, where to sit, may you remember who you are and that we love you and rejoice in you, unique, beautiful you. May you have fun, learn tremendously, grow in new ways you never imagined. May you play and dance, paint and sing, find new friends and new joys. May you always be held in love. May you know joy and laughter. May you know a comforting presence in sorrow and grief. May the world be yours to explore and discover. May you seek to be compassionate towards all that is. May you know and delight in mystery. And may that mystery travel with you and bless you all the days of your life. Blessed be. Amen. And so now, as we enter into our time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer, we acknowledge the joys and sorrows of our congregation. We do this by dropping stones in a bowl of water symbolically immersing our personal joys and sorrows into the flow of all life's joys and sorrows. The water surrounds and holds the stone, just as we are surrounded and held by the love and support of this congregation. If you're in the sanctuary, I invite you to come forward, take a stone and place it in the water. If you'd like to share your joy or sorrow in written form, please go to menti.com and use code 53494861 and then type in your joy or sorrow. You may want to add your name to your joy or your sorrow if you'd like. If you're in the sanctuary, Dave and Larry, right up here in the front, have iPads that you can use to add your joy or sorrow to our Mentimeter. These joys and sorrows will be shown on the screen while people are dropping stones in the water. After all the stones have been dropped in the water, Brenda will place one last stone in the water for all those joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts. Please come forward. Our congregation and the wider community tenderly in our hearts and minds today and in the coming days. When we need a listening ear or a heart or a helping hand, may we reach out. And when we know of needs, may we offer support with loving kindness. For it is in sharing our lives, our cares, and our joys, and in giving and receiving that we know community, that we know love most fully, and that we have an opportunity to live our covenant with one another. May we find joy and peace and sustenance today and all days. Amen. Blessed be. And now let's join in singing our meditative chant.
A love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all I rest in this love. There is a love holding There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
Celebrating many transitions, and especially our youth bridging to adulthood, spreading their wings and becoming change agents, helping create a world we can all thrive in. These are joyous moments. They can also bring lots of anxiety, partly because they're happening in a changing world with challenges that can be overwhelming. You know what I'm talking about. And so we wonder, how do we engage with such a changing world? How can we create a world where we can thrive in amongst so many forces? Well, when I was in graduate school for environmental planning, the reality of our social and environmental plight settled in ever more fully as I learned about how far we were living beyond our Earth's capacity to sustain us. Back then, in the early 2000s, if everyone in the world lived like an average American, we would have needed 3 planets to support us. And Americans were only using 3 times our fair share per person then, instead of about 5 times our fair share now. We could see the trends back then. We'd been seeing them for years, for decades. And that change from 3 to 5 is largely because we've been damaging our Earth's ability to replenish the ecosphere, and because population keeps growing. The heartfelt reaction was despair. Maybe some of you are feeling some of that right now. With so many problems, with people disposed to inaction or small actions that don't affect our lives too deeply and don't result in the transformational changes we need, with politics stuck in inaction or going backwards, what real hope could any thinking person have? But then how could we not have hope? If we didn't have hope, a will to work for change and create resilience, what was there? Without communication, connection, and action, there is no possibility for change. And without hope, we had no way to keep acting for change. Connecting with ourselves and others would have seemed meaningless and pointless. During that time, as I felt myself pulled towards hopelessness, yet knowing the consequences of inaction, I wondered a lot. I found myself remembering lessons of resilience, hope, and community building that I learned growing up in poor and lower middle class, racially and ethnically diverse communities in Dallas, Texas. Communities where people regularly faced and found ways to respond to hardship, oppression, and pain by working together. And I found myself remembering the words of wise people who counseled us to find hope and create conditions of possibility and transformation. One of them was Václav Havel, whose writings I'd studied in college. In Disturbing the Peace, the Czech playwright, dissident, activist, and former president describes hope as an orientation of the spirit, an orientation of the heart. It transcends the world that is immediately experienced, and it is anchored somewhere beyond its horizons. Hope, in this deep and powerful sense, is not the same as joy that things are going well, or willingness to invest in enterprises that are obviously headed for early success, but rather an ability to work for something because it is good, not just because it stands a chance to succeed. The more unpropitious the situation in which we demonstrate hope, the deeper that hope is. Hope is definitely not the same thing as optimism. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well. but the certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out. It is also this hope above all which gives us the strength to live and to continually try new things, even in conditions that seem as hopeless as ours do, here and now. Let me repeat part of that from Václav Havel. Hope is the certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out. That teaching, along with Australian Aboriginal activist Lila Watson's teaching that we are all bound up together in the struggle for liberation, and the lessons I learned about community care and resilience growing up helped me find and create the hope I needed over 20 years ago. And they've provided guidance to return to again and again over the years as I confronted more situations of hopelessness and helplessness, as I worked with communities facing various environmental and public health problems, was confronted with intransigent systems and forces of callousness and greed, volunteered for and led a mental health crisis line. And as we blew past environmental benchmark after benchmark, creating ever more difficult conditions for our future thriving and surviving. The conditions we live in now and have to grapple with as we contemplate and create our future and places for everyone we love. And yet, hope is the certainty that something makes sense. It gives us the strength to live and to continually try new things. And so we can create places of support, of resilience, of adaptation by investing our time, our energy, our resources of all kinds in developing places and people of resilience. This is the work that has called to me for decades. And congregations have a special place, have special potential for helping create systems of resilience that can support us, as well as our neighbors, in times of change and challenge. Our congregation can be a place that helps us adapt, create a better world, and be a beacon for all those who are struggling. How we do this is something we have to develop together. I know it would be great if I could say, here's the recipe. But I can't, because we are in a time of such change that we can't simply use or recreate the systems that have worked in the past. We have to create new ways. But there is the gift, and there is part of what makes this a spiritual journey and makes congregations such wonderful places to engage in this work together. In creating new ways together, we have so much opportunity to create more loving and connected ways of being and engaging. To, as Grace Lee Boggs said, transform ourselves so that we can transform the world. Someone who is doing work on developing ideas and systems for shaping change is Adrienne Maree Brown. In her book, Emergent Strategy, Adrienne Maree Brown lays out the core principles that guide her in learning and using the practices of emergent strategy. They include: small is good, small is all. The larger is a reflection of the small. Change is constant. There is always enough time for the right work. There is a conversation in the room that only these people at this moment can have. Find it. Never a failure, always a lesson. Trust the people. If you trust the people, they become trustworthy. Move at the speed of trust. Focus on critical connections more than critical mass. Build the resilience by building the relationship. Less prep, more presence. And what you pay attention to grows. These principles can guide us as we work together, grounded in a hope that is not optimism for recreating what we've known, but rather is for co-creating the something new that we need for our present and future times. They and drawing upon the many lessons and stories of adaptation, wonder, interdependence, and relationship can help us become some of the people and places of resilience that we need and that the world needs. This co-creation is and will be a process of asking the questions and creating answers together. We are not following a known road, but rather creating new ways of traveling together in an unknown and complex environment. And so how we do this work matters. This is also why it's part of our spiritual, our purpose and meaning-making journeys. It asks that we pay attention to process, engage experimentation and emergence, and develop our willingness to be transformed. It teaches us that there is always enough time for the right work, especially when we move at the speed of trust. As Adrienne Marie Brown wrote in Emergent Strategy, "My vision is changing our how more than seeing clearly our what. I see a how where we are all much more comfortable with change and with our personal power to change conditions." Octavia Butler said, "Belief initiates and guides action, or it does nothing." In her 12 novels and her short stories, she created case studies that teach how to lead inside of change, shaping change. I've been calling what I learned from her work Emergent Strategy. It unleashes more of the power of each person. We each have important pieces of the whole, so I concentrate my work on the generation of vision, the strengthening of the muscle of looking forward together. One major emerging lesson: we have to create futures in which everyone doesn't have to be the same kind of person. That's the problem with most utopias for me, writes Brown. They are presented as mono-value, a new, greener, more monoculture, local monoculture where everyone gardens and plays the lute and no one travels. And I don't want to go there. Compelling futures have to have more justice, yes, and right relationship to planet, yes, but also must allow for our growth and innovation. I want an interdependence of lots of kinds of people with lots of belief systems and continued evolution. Right now, we don't know what's right so much as we know what's wrong and what we've tried. Nothing that has existed so far was the right way for everyone. But there are pieces out there we can begin to imagine together. I want a future where we are curious, interested, visionary, and adaptive. As you digest those words from Adrienne Marie Brown, I'm going to grab some water. One of the principles that Adrienne Marie Brown is talking about there, here and elsewhere, is to use the words of Paula Cole-Jones, one of the creators of the Eighth Principle, who led a workshop here a couple of weeks ago on building a culture of inclusion, is creating a community of communities. Now, those of you who are there know what I'm talking about. Those of you who weren't, I hope you share it with your neighbors as I give, later, after this service, after the congregational meeting, or maybe before the congregational meeting. As we create systems, so communities of communities, as we create systems, places, people, a congregation of resilience, we can create a larger community made up of many smaller communities, of people with similar interests, goals, or questions that regularly come together, developing relationships, interacting, and interrelating as members work together and as parts of multiple groups. And we can be one community among others doing this work, because we're far from alone. So many people are engaging with this change work, here in Johnson County, in Iowa, in the US, and in the world. People in groups who can be in community with and build on what is emerging. People in groups that we can be in accountable relationship with. That is, who we can commit to working with and who can remind us to call ourselves back into covenant when we stray from the work. Because one of the key principles and practices of building resilience is developing and leaning into relationships, connection, and partnerships, both when things are going well and when we start to stray back into old ways of doing things. What we pay attention to grows. And responsible action means the creation of the conditions of possibility for desired changes. And so as we develop our muscles for being in the process, for co-creating something new, for developing relationships and multiple communities of communities, for hoping, as we engage in transformational change work in all the parts of our communities, we can develop and ask ourselves compelling questions that help us go further into the work. Questions like, change is coming. What do we need to imagine as we prepare for it? What is compelling about surviving climate chaos? How do we prepare not just for suffering, but for sharing and innovating? How is this work, this process, changing our spiritual lives? As we do this work for ourselves and together as a congregation, it will transform us as it helps us transform the world. We can understand our lives and work and relationships as a place where we can practice justice, liberation, and alignment with each other and the earth. Our dreams and hopes for the future, our needs for resistance and building communities of resilience can be strongly grounded and rooted in love. As Ruth Messenger wrote, the magnitude of the issues we fight for may seem daunting, but we must not retreat to the convenience of being overwhelmed. We cannot do everything, but we can do something. We cannot do it alone, but we can do it in community. We can do it with each decision we make, with each way we build relationship, with each way we lean into co-creating resilience. If we are to thrive, we must dream and build communities of resistance, adaptation, and resilience. We must choose hope, and we must begin today. So may it be. Amen, and blessed be.
How we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. In months with 5 Sundays, one Sunday is designated to support a special cause or organization other than our normal community partner. Today, the offering will benefit the Chico Mendez Reforestation Project. Chico Mendez is a community-run nonprofit based in the Guatemalan highland village of Pashaj. They strive to protect forested lands from unjust exploitation, reverse climate change, empower the next generation of Guatemalans, stand up for local community decision-making, cultivate biodiversity, and inspire supporters from around the globe to take action. UUS has supported Chico Mendez for years financially and through service trips. Members of the UUS have traveled to Chico Mendez 3 times in previous years to join the team of local youth to help plant trees in the mountains of Cantel, Pashaj. The COVID pandemic has been hard on Chico Mendez, and donations are crucial at this time. On the screen, you will see instructions for how to give online, or you may take the time to write a check and address an envelope to UUS to be put in the mail. If you're attending this service here in the sanctuary, you can give online, or there is a basket for checks in the atrium. The usher can help you find it after the service. You may assist our 5th Sunday agency. Our normal community partner, Community Crisis Services, and Food Bank contribute to the congregation to provide additional support for our operating expenses or contribute towards your pledge to our society. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is completely supported by the generosity of all who join with us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
So it may seem like years ago, but 3 weeks ago, I had made you do a little activity where we made up melodies. And I made it into a little song. So this is created by all y'all. I did get like 12 melodies, so if you still have one, you could still send it to me. But this is a song written by you in this congregation, so I hope you enjoy.
What's important to you is important to me, and what's important to us makes us a community. What's important to you is important to me, and what's important to us makes us a community. Equity.
Family. Climbing clematis. Family, family, I love my family. Pay, 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 family. Love is love, is love, is love, is love. Family. Sunshine and shadows. Connection. It's okay.
What's important to you is important to me, and what's important to us makes us a community. What's important to you is important to me, and what's important to us makes us a community.
Baby.
Nurturing gratitude and how we understand and express interdependence is part of how we live into our Unitarian Universalist faith. May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service, we will have a time for all to join in conversation and community. If you're online, a link to our Zoom coffee hour room is being dropped into the chat. If you're in person, we gather in the fellowship hall and outside for conversation. And as a reminder, there are baskets on the table that you can leave notes for our graduates. And now to close our service today, we will sing Spirit, Make Us One, which was written for UUS. If you're at UUS, sing softly into your mask, hum, move your hands or body with the music. If you're at home, please feel free to sing as loudly as you'd like.
I'll invite you to stand as you like. We proclaim a saving message as in times of old. History give us courage, make us bold. There is healing, there is hope for every hurting soul. Spirits give us comfort, make us whole. Make us bold, make us bold. History give us courage, make us bold. Make us whole, make us whole. Spirit, give us comfort, make us whole. Earth, receive our hearts' thanksgiving under prairie skies. Nature, bless our yearning, make us wise. We are here for one another in good times and bad. Spirits, give us laughter, make us glad. Make us wise, make us wise. Nature, bless our yearning, make us wise. Make us glad, make us glad. Spirit, give us laughter, make us glad. Let justice be the saving struggle we pursue. Conscience, give us honor, make us true. We bear witness to the promised future now begun. Spirit, bless our journey, make us one. Make us true, make us true. Conscience, give us honor, make us true. Make us one, make us one. Spirit, bless our journey, make us one.
Join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
As you first head into the fellowship hall to make cards for our bridging seniors, and then head to the congregational meeting, and then head out to the world this week, may you go with hope. May you go finding and creating and becoming a people and a community of resilience. And may you go in peace, love, and justice, living love ever more fully and fiercely into the world today and all days. Amen and blessed be. Now, let's join in singing our choral benediction.
May we carry this light in ourselves. May we kindle the light in each other. And may we use our light to to bring justice in this world. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be.
saying they're here on the sign-up sheet for the annual meeting. You may want to announce it. I wonder if we should do it here now.
Yeah, we could just bring it in.
Okay.
Do you want to get it?
Yeah, I'll bring it.
Or Joe could bring it. He's got it, I think. The official sign-in sheet for the meeting is separate from the sign-in when you came to the service this morning. It's at the front desk, and we're going to go get it right now, so if you still need to be recorded that you're here for our quorum, you can sign it up front. We'll have it up here in just a minute. We're taking initials of people who are members for the meeting, just like we always have on the way in. But you may think you've already signed it because you signed when you came in for the COVID purposes. So as usual, we have added difficulties, but we'll get through it. So if you need to sign in, we'll have that sign-in sheet up here in just a second. Liz, could you see if Mike went up, Kurt went up to get the signage. And bring it up here so we can have it. Those who's not what you said. So I don't know where they are. Here comes Kurt Witzberger with the list. You want Marion, this one right here. It's just your initials on a list that is with qualified voters, which is members.
I still have one list here. This is again that we got to.
Oh, okay. We'll go ahead and get started then. We will announce the quorum as soon as we know what it is. But I'm going to go ahead and start so you aren't here all day. We have 291 voting members as of last night, and it takes 59 for a quorum, 20%. I would first like to call Reverend Diana up for the chalice lighting and opening words. Thank you.
Our opening words come from Reverend Sherry Woodbury, who wrote the piece that we often use as our centering music right now. Here we are in our circle again, a circle of vision and reflection, a forum for deciding and empowering. Here we are at the base of another bridge, another space spanning the shores of today and tomorrow, beckoning us across the chasm, one day at a time. Here we are, gathered again at the cusp of the future, at the boundary that holds community together. We are here in a circle of love and trust, brought to this moment by a series of choices and promises, by hope and gratitude, by our shadows faced and befriended. With a servant's heart, with a leader's listening, with a parent's love, truer than all our inner trembling, let us model the health we seek for all. Somewhere out there, all we dream is possible. Somewhere in here, we are sowing the seeds. And so as we sow the seeds of the possible, let's light our chalice and begin our congregational meeting.
Thank you all for coming today online and in person. I just want to remind people that the actual voting will be after the meeting, and so we will have motions and seconds and discussion as needed, but the voting will be later. The first thing is the item for action item is the approval of the December 19th, 2021 meeting minutes. I need a motion for that and a second. Okay, Sue Otto and Kurt, thank you. Are there any corrections or discussion of those minutes? If not, we will see what the vote is later online. I want to start out after that by recognizing 5 elected officers who have completed their terms, but who we all know have not ended their involvement for the betterment of UUS. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until all 5 are announced. The Board of Trustees, past President Joe Rasmussen. Finance Trustee John Rayleigh. If you'll hold your applause to the end, it'll go faster. Secretary Paula Miller, not Paul Miller. And she's outstanding. Leadership Development Committee, Marcia Cheney.
She headed home to get her kid for Owl.
Okay, well, we'll applaud anyway. And Endowment Committee, Gary Lorenzen. Okay, well, there he is. Thanks. All right, thank you. Each of these members have served with distinction, and each has contributed immeasurably to UUS. I also extend a special thank you to the 5 nominees ahead who have agreed to serve, and to the entire Leadership Development Committee for their successful efforts at finding nominees for these with volunteers. I would further take this opportunity to state the obvious that all members and friends of UUS have talents and skills to give our UUS community. And when you contribute your time, you are leading our congregation forward. Sue, would you please come up and present the nominations?
It is my genuine pleasure to nominate 5 members for the elected bodies of UUS. Please do take time either on the ballot or in the newsletter to read the full bios of these people. They are a gift to our congregation. They're gifted, wonderful people. I will start with John Bowman, Board Vice President. And I'm going to read just a snippet of the bio to remind you of what they've done with their engagement in Unitarian Universalism. John has been a member of UUS since 2018, serving on the Hospitality Committee, the Racial Justice Team, and the Ministerial Search Committee. He is also a worship associate and co-leader of the worship associate team. He is co-facilitator for the Kindred Spirits Covenant Group. At his previous UU church in Auburn, California, John was a trustee on the board, was on the search committee for a new interim minister, and on several other committees, mostly focusing on anti-racism, immigration, and indigenous people issues. So now I formally move to accept the nomination of John Bowman to fill a 3-year term on the Board of Trustees, starting out as vice president.
Second.
Somebody got a second? Miriam, who was it? Peg Boschka? Peg Boschka. Okay, thank you very much. Next in is Christine Edler, Board Secretary. Christine Edler originally joined UUS in 2003. She was and has been an active member between 2003 to 2008, and from 2018 to present. Over the years, Christine has served on a hospitality committee, has volunteered with the AV team, and has been a member of the choir. I move to accept the nomination of Christine Edler to fill a 3-year term for the position of secretary on the Board of Trustees. Second. Jim Laughlin, second. Thank you. Next is Jerry Wetlaufer, Board Finance Trustee. A member since 2010, Jerry served on the most recent Ministerial Search Committee. He's been involved with the Covenant Group, adult religious education, social justice, and anti-racism work, the Secular Humanists, and the Free Thinker Friendly Initiative, and Iowa City's Winding Path Buddhist Sangha. I move to accept the nomination of Jerry Wetlaufer to fill a 3-year term for the position of Finance Trustee on the Board of Trustees. So, or Val Bowman, I think. I saw Val's hand, I'm not sure. Okay. Next, Paul Pomeran for the Endowment Committee. Paul has been a member of UUSIC since 1981. Over the years, Paul has worked on the Building and Grounds Committee, has been a worship associate, and an OWL instructor. He had served on numerous committees, including the New Facilities Committee, and has been elected to 3 separate 3-year terms on the Board of Trustees, the last of which ended in June 2021. He served a term on the Leadership Development Committee and currently serves as a member of the Pastoral Care Team. I move to accept the nomination of Paul Pomeran to fill a 5-year term on the Endowment Committee. Jerry Pearson. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Phil Beck, Leadership Development Committee. Phil joined UUS in the summer of 2008. Phil was on the Building and Grounds Committee and the AV group at 10 South Gilbert. He is a longtime member of a covenant group and has co-facilitated his group since 2009. He headed the Communications Committee, which oversaw the redesign of the UUS website and wrote UUS's communications policy. For 6 years, Phil acted as coordinator of UUS's volunteer group for Iowa City's annual citywide rummage sale, Rummage in the Ramp, and he looks forward to doing that again once they resume. I move to accept the nomination of Phil Beck to fill a 3-year term on the Leadership Development Committee. Virginia Melroy, second. Thank you very much.
Is there any discussion on each or any of these 5 nominees? If not, we will vote for them after the meeting when you receive it on an email. Joe, did you want it to, shall I just go ahead and, okay. We have an official quorum today, well more than we need, so I can announce that. We have at least 91, because I checked my mailbox for the absentee ballots, and with all the people, we're way over. That's great. Okay. Guess I'm up. In the months since our last congregational meeting, we've experienced an emergence of creative and strategic activity to enhance the U.S.'s mission and programs and to find new ways toward long-term financial stability to support them. With our congregational meeting budget goal clearly before us as the first major priority, the Balance and Growth Initiative, BGI, the board and Reverend Diana and the staff began to take concrete steps to implement new income and outreach ideas, expand the rental of our facilities, schedule collaborative events that involve community organizations who share our values, and launch a concert series to expose more people to UUS while also gradually increasing revenue. Another vital and major part of the budget formula was the annual stewardship campaign, which outraised its proposed share of operating budget funds for 2022, happily surpassing its $420,000 goal. With strategic assistance from several generous anonymous challenge gifts. Along with this, searches led by Reverend Diana and senior staff to fill UUS job openings looked for candidates whose talents included ideas for UUS outreach, activities that could attract income, as well as do their important job here. During the Director of Lifetime Religious Education search, Anna Rhodey has generously served as Religious Education Coordinator, helping keep our RE programs strong and our volunteers fully utilized. The DLRE search was completed with the hire of Nick Kaplan, who begins in 3 weeks. To help meet BGI's increased income rental goals, experienced staff member Peggy Garrigus' title was changed from Director of Congregational Life to Director of Congregational and Community Outreach, expanding her role. And a committee was formed to re-examine our rental practices and pricing. The search to replace departing building steward Ron Wright was completed with the hire of Ruben Galvin as facilities manager. To fill our final opening at this time, we are conducting a search for a part-time communications coordinator. BGI is working cooperatively with the board's Mission and Vision Committee to determine guideposts for measuring our progress in balancing the budget and concurrently enhancing our ministry and programming. A second important focus, initially brought about by COVID, was UUS's implementation of new AV technology and additional work by staff and volunteers to implement a multi-platform service and programming. This began with Zoom online participants, including multiple discussion groups during coffee hour. In April, we experimentally added YouTube streaming of the Sunday service, and this was adopted in May, retaining Zoom for interactive sessions. Several times during the year, AV adjustments of various kinds were made, and volunteers and staff became more and more experienced, even as we speak. All efforts are worthwhile for the future and long after the COVID pandemic has waned. We now experience a new positive paradigm that will continue to offer multi-platform options that enable people to attend online when they're out of town, ill, have mobility issues, face local transportation difficulties, or have family circumstances that periodically would otherwise prevent attendance. Multi-platform capability also allows some UUS meetings to be held more conveniently, sometimes with short notice. With great appreciation to the original COVID task force that served us with professional caution for 2 years, and taking into account the assumed high vaccination rate and health awareness of our congregation, this spring the board authorized a COVID safer gathering plan, written and monitored by Reverend Diana and staff, with volunteers on call if needed to advise on issues that might arise. Part of our program progress with grounds and facilities is the UUS Memorial Garden, commissioned following the May 8th Sunday service. The Memorial Garden is on view from our large windows, which I really like, and accessible to those who wish to visit. The first interment took place there this month. Inside our building, a major improvement this year was the installation of a wooden ceiling in the welcoming space in Fellowship Hall to match the sanctuary, made possible by an anonymous gift from a generous member. A third and final subject I want to briefly mention is our shared governance model, initiated only about 3 years ago. I believe all three components of this model, the congregation, the board, and the minister and staff, are working together through collaboration, consultation, mutual support, and accountability to document the policies and procedures of our general governance model, new governance model. The UUS Shared Ministry Bylaws, Policies, and Procedures Manual on the UUS website is regularly updated for all our benefit, and it includes a word search function valuable to you. I urge all teams and committees to route policy and procedure changes through the Governance Committee, the current chair, Joe Rasmussen, for placement and consistency in the manual, whose cover will carry the date of the most recent addition or change. This is a big move that's been going on for quite a while now, and I think we can all be proud of it. The chair of governance will forward the changes, additions, and proper placement to the congregational administrator, Emma Barnum, in the front office for inclusion in the manual. Finally, I would just like to say I've really been proud to serve as your president with a really outstanding board and strong staff and volunteer leadership throughout the UUS. Now, I would have invited our treasurer, who's on vacation visiting his family, to speak, but he's given me his message, and I will read it. We were going to have him on the screen, but it didn't work out, so that's fine. Here it goes, and it's fairly short, and I think we've made a lot of progress. This is from Mike Pavlich. Financially, these past 2 years have been exciting and encouraging. In brief, the events were as follows. The pandemic revealed a chronic funding deficit, often 30% of our operating budgets. This has been going on since 2016. Working from the structure of a multi-year plan, the board took on the task of finally addressing the problem. They created a committee called BGI to evaluate and flesh out the multi-year plan. BGI did that work, and the board presented their 2-year actions and budget plan to the members of the December 2021 Congregational Meeting. The congregation approved the plan and authorized withdrawing up to $45,000 in 2022 and $80,000 in 2023 as extra funds from the general endowment earnings to support the operating budgets. The plan forces a balanced budget in 2024, but outlines several actions to be taken to make that happen in due course. We are in the beginning to middle of that plan, and things are looking promising. Pledge support for 2022 has topped the Stewardship Committee's goal. Reverend Diana's redefining of some staff positions to better fill our needs, and activities that increase our visibility to the larger community are falling into place. The BGI Committee and the board will be supporting and monitoring the actions outlined in the plan as we go forward. They will report periodically to the congregation with metrics. As of April, we have $350,000 in our bank accounts. The spending in the first quarter of 2022 has been well within budget. The extra withdrawals from general endowment earnings are serving us well. By the way, our 2021 operating budget had a deficit of $125,000. This shortfall in regular income was covered by $125,000 in extra funds we had in the bank accounts. The problem is real, but it will be fixable. I think Mike is online. If you have discussion things that you would like to ask, we can try to do it now, or you can contact him by his email, which we all have in Realm. It's pmpavlich@mchsi.com, which I have. But are there any questions from the floor about the treasurer's report? It is not the budget, so we don't have to approve it, but I wanted you to know. At the February board meeting, moving on. At the February board meeting, your trustees unanimously supported that the UUS endorse the 8th principle for adoption by the UUA, and that this be presented as a motion in today's congregational meeting. Leading up to our vote today, there have been several related sermons, covenant group discussions, multiple after-service information sessions, and 2 weeks ago, a very important and well-attended afternoon workshop with one of the 8th Principles originators, Paula Cole Jones. I believe this is an important step for UUS to undertake. I now will ask Reverend Diana and 2 members of our congregation to say a few words and then be available with me if there is a discussion following the motion and second of the 8th principle. Rochelle Honey Arsmont has been long involved in many aspects of UUS, and as vice president will be your president beginning July 1st. Kurt Werksberger has led many congregational discussion sessions over the years, and he currently serves as social justice coordinator for the Iowa Unitarian Universalist Witness and Advocacy Network. The 8th principle.
All right. Oh, and Rochelle and Kirk, you're right there. Okay, I was going to invite you to come forward, but all right. So, as Alan talked about, we are here to discuss the 8th principle and look at UUS endorsing it. The 8th principle reads, "We covenant to affirm and promote, journeying towards spiritual wholeness, by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community, by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions." Now, one of the ways we can think about the 8th principle is as a connector for all of our principles. We've heard a few different ways of thinking about the 8th principle over time, and the connector model of thinking about it is one that really resonates with me. We can think of it as a connector or a stabilizer for the house of love that we build with our other principles. It's something that is a foundation or a ground that unites and holds up the house of love that we build with all of these. It helps carry us into a multicultural paradigm by helping us see ourselves as part of the multicultural community In other words, it helps us build a culture of inclusion. And this is, after all, how it was developed. Paula Cole Jones, who led that workshop a couple weeks ago, working with congregations at the UUA, noticed that you can be a good Unitarian Universalist. In other words, you can follow the 7 principles without ever addressing racism or other oppressions at a systemic level. And this is a problem, because as an anti-oppressive faith, as a faith that believes in love, it is part of our call to dismantle oppressions and to live ever more fully into what love means. So she noticed this and worked with another lay leader to develop the 8th principle to address this. And in 2017, Paula Cole Jones' congregation, All Souls in DC, Washington, DC, the lay leader, Bruce Pollock Johnson's congregation in Philadelphia and a congregation in Honolulu were the first 3 congregations to adopt the 8th principle. Shortly after, there was a Unitarian Universalist crisis related to inclusive hiring practices in 2017, which along with increasing awareness of present-day racism, caused more congregations to begin to adopt the 8th principle. And then those adoptions increased again after George Floyd's murder in 2020. In other words, one of the things that keeps causing more congregations to adopt this is increasing awareness of how racism is impacting our lives and our world, and that we can't get away from that. And there's momentum on anti-racism and anti-oppression work, but the risk of backsliding is real, as we've seen before. So why racism is one of the questions that often gets asked with the 8th principle. Why call out racism specifically amongst other oppressions? Well, we know that the U.S. has been deeply embedded in racism and has racism deeply embedded in it since its founding. We know that this teaching is something that is being countered sometimes in our school districts, but we know that this is something that has been part of our country. And it has influenced Unitarian Universalism since we're part of this country. We can't escape it. It's the water that we swim around in. And in the UUA, in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, our 2 largest denominational crises were related to race. This is a reflection of the water we swim in and our failure to address it at a systemic level. In 1997, at General Assembly, Unitarian Universalists voted to intentionally become an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural institution. And originally, we made good progress. But by the early 2000s, funding and attention were reduced, and we shifted towards shallow diversity rather than deep multicultural beloved community and structural change. In other words, the risk of backsliding is real. And so the 8th principle's focus on action and accountable relationships works to address this. That's why there's so much focus on those things in the 8th principle. Also, timing. Right now, many institutions are becoming much more aware of racism. Also, Unitarian Universalism is in the midst of a 15-year review of our principles and purposes. As part of that review, we're figuring out what our basic values are and how those need to be reflected in our principles. And so the 8th principle and its this movement for congregations to endorse or adopt it is part of a larger movement to think about how we as Unitarian Universalists around this country can address what living love means and what our principles mean. And we can be part of that movement. You're going to hear a little bit more about that from Kirk and from Rochelle in just a few minutes. So I'm going to stop there in terms of the history of the 8th principle and this kind of general overview, and kind of come back to those grounding principles of what it means for us at UUS. If we endorse the 8th principle, what we're saying is we're calling ourselves into deeper and more sustained and more relational partnership-based work on countering oppressions, including racism. And we're calling ourselves to build an even deeper culture of inclusion. These are things that we have espoused in our mission, in our vision, and the 8th principle is one way of helping us say, we want to do this work, and we want to do it accountably, and we want to build a house of love. So with that, Kirk, can you come up here and say a little bit more?
Hello. So as Alan said, in addition to being a member here, I have a social justice role in IOWN, the Iowa Social Justice Action Network, and I've been talking with people around the state and around the country since late 2021, and I see this movement to dismantle oppressions is growing. 10 congregations endorsed this last week. Cedar Rapids, People's Church, they spent 2 years, 2.5 to about a half year ago, talking about this and racism in general. Then they passed it unanimously, and now they're spending this year looking at what they're going to do and beginning to implement what they're going to do. It's that action that follows the vote that is really what matters for every congregation. I've learned a lot in conversations that I've been having around the state and the country. I've heard people here and at other congregations prefer that it didn't have certain words or phrases like spiritual or accountably dismantle or something else. And if I were king of the world, I probably wouldn't have written those words either, but I can make those words work for me. I can interpret them in a way that works for me. And by the way, if I wrote the 8th principle a year ago or last week, I'd be wordsmithing it today again. So I think we can, writing it perfectly is not what this is about. The general meaning, the meaning and essence of it is what it's about. This is especially true because, as Reverend Diana said, UUA is reimagining and rewriting Article 2. They're rewriting all of our principles. We could end up with 4 principles or 8 principles. It's going to be rewritten. The essence is what will likely stay if they see lots of congregations want to do this. So voting yes doesn't convey that we agree with every word, but rather it tells UUA that we agree with its essence. And I think this essence aligns with what we've already said in our mission and vision statements. Our mission includes advocates for racial and social justice and nurture deep connections. Our vision includes we will confront racial and social injustice and nurture deep connections. I see these deep connections as being both between and among fellow members and between this UUS community and other communities. This is what builds our beloved community. Here at UUS, for example, we could focus on our community creating relationships with organizations, churches, or communities comprised of people of color that have, or other groups that have been marginalized. That's just one example of what we can talk about, how we can implement this principle here. And the conversations that we have about that will be enlightening and worth having. I would note that last December, I was talking with a woman in New York who has a role similar to my Iowan role, state advocacy network role in New York. She's a black woman. And I told her about our mission and vision statements. I read them to her, and she was impressed. But do the people who are rewriting Article 2 know that's what's in our mission and vision statements? They don't. Voting yes is the best way for us to convey and for them to hear that this mostly white congregation in the Midwest is in solidarity with people of color and wants to be seen as an ally congregation. And we want the essence of this principle to be in the new version of Article 2. Also, Do you think that we're doing all that we can to move toward our stated vision of confronting racial and social injustice and nurturing deep connections? I think we can do better, and I think voting yes will spur us to act more urgently toward co-creating a more welcoming and diverse, beloved community.
Good morning. It is a blessing to be here with all of you today to discuss the 8th principle and vote on endorsing its adoption by the UUA. I want to reflect on some observations I have made, not only as your vice president, but as a clinical social worker in the therapy I have the honor of participating in on a daily basis. We all know that the last 2 years of pandemic have been some of the most challenging of our lifetimes, but even before that, many people were suffering. The election of 2016 and the ensuing years have been a time of great divisiveness. Progress in many areas has halted and reversed. The lives of marginalized individuals and communities have become harder and more painful. Countless times I have sat across from clients and heard their heart-wrenching stories of oppressive experiences and held space for their rage and despair. Innumerable times have I listened to the fears, the terrors of the folks with whom I work. I help clients fight off the feelings of helplessness and hopelessness while I have to fight them off myself. Yet, it has been an honor, a true blessing, to sit with people in their pain so they can be heard, be seen, and have their worth and dignity acknowledged and reinforced. The last few years have been truly traumatic for each of us, yet we have not been in the same boat. We may be traversing through the same stormy waters, but some people have yachts, some have kayaks, some may ride around on jet skis, and others cling to rafts. And yet, still others are grasping for any stray driftwood that is spinning past in the wake of those around them. We are seeing the effects of trauma around us and within us on a daily basis. Irritability and flaring tempers, body aches and deficient immune systems, overwork or inability to work, exhaustion, paralysis. The isolation of the last 2 years has us disconnected from ourselves, our sense of purpose and meaning, disconnected from each other here within our congregation and other people important to us, and disconnected from the wider community, be that geographical community or other definitions of community. Through my work, I have been blessed with deep connections with many people, but not everyone has had that opportunity. So this last year, the board chose to focus our vision of ministry on reconnection with ourselves, with each other, and with the wider community. The 8th principle is an opportunity for us to lean into and live into that vision and into our congregation's mission, where we state that we will advocate for racial and social justice and confront injustice, as well as nurture deep connections. By endorsing the 8th principle, we encourage the entire UU community to engage in this work with us. Endorsing the 8th principle allows us to connect with our values and connect at a deeper, more sustained level with those who have experienced oppression. It provides us with ways to take action. If we choose to embark on this journey, today is just the starting point. Our racial and social justice teams have been making connections and learning from them, learning ways that we can make a difference, steps that we can take that can actually have an impact. If you have felt paralyzed by the hopelessness and helplessness that many have felt in the last few years, there is a path forward. There are things that can make a difference. We will be exploring many of those and providing people with opportunities to act. When we act, we take back our power. When we act, we create hope in ourselves and those we are working with. When we act, we begin the process of healing from the traumas of the past and the present. Voting to endorse the 8th principle is a way to act, and I hope you will join me in that act. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Diana, Kurt, and Rochelle. That makes me all the more proud to be part of this congregation. We need to have a motion from someone to accept the eighth principle for adoption to be presented to UUA. Thank you. And Miriam seconds. Now we're open for discussion. If there are questions you have about it, I know many of you have attended lots of these sessions or some of them and have asked your questions already. But we will entertain them if you have them, and otherwise we'll go to a vote after the service. I don't see any unless there's some online. Okay, well that's good. I think it's such a worthwhile thing we're doing, and I just want, in closing, that's great. I think it will pass, but we'll see. I want to thank all those who are assisting with our multi-platform election. The Board of Trustees, Amy Fretz, staff members Emma Barnum and Peggy Garrigus, an AV support team, and Michael Honey Arsment, and others behind the scenes. And thank you all who are here today and online for participating. Online voters will have 5 days until 5 p.m. Friday, May 27th to cast your ballot. The election results will be announced next Sunday, May 29th. I now entertain a show of enthusiastic consensus to adjourn. We are adjourned.